encounter, he's baptized. We have opportunities, many times that we don't notice, where we can be that way of rescuing someone else. Now, when I tell some of these stories, and I often do, even like a month ago, I was preaching at another church, and I had one of the pharmacists from the hospital, he came to do the interpretation. And so we told the story of my mother, and afterwards he started telling me some stories from his own life. Because almost every time I tell the story, someone will come up afterwards and say, I've had some similar experience, some real clear action on God's behalf, on their behalf. And so he was telling in his own life, he was also one of 5 children. He was the 4th son, and his father also died when he was young. He was about 5 years old when his father died. And so they didn't have much money. And Malawi is a very poor country. It is routinely one of the 10 poorest countries in the world. So there was only enough money for 1 or 2 of the children to go to school. But he wanted to go to school. And so he went to one of the schools, an Adventist school, and just started sitting in the classroom. I'm going to be here. And he was so persistent that some of the people there said, okay, we will find a way to help you stay in school. And he was able to go all the way through school. He became a pharmacist. So he didn't just stop there. Now that he has a job and resources, he's helping other people. Obviously, first he was helping his family, but in that culture, even for us, it's not something that we would be comfortable here, but we have workers that come to our house. We have a couple of guys that work in our garden. We have one person that works in the house. Most of us wouldn't be able to afford servants or whatever you might want to call them, and that's not what we want. But most families have those people because it's a way of employing someone else. Otherwise, they would have nothing. And so he was employing a couple of other people, and one of them showed some real potential. And so he said, okay, I'll see if I can sponsor you for school because I was helped when I was before, so I want to see if I can help you. And he started that. But then one of his other relatives also needed assistance, and so the family took priority. And he was thinking, now we've started the program for this young man. He's in school, he's doing well, but where is he going to get the resources? And so as he was thinking that, he got a call from the United States. And he was in the middle of the night in the United States. We're about 9 hours ahead there. And so he answers the phone. It was someone who had visited the hospital in Malawi more than 2 years before and somehow had his number still in his phone. And he was calling and saying, I woke up in the middle of the night. I have an impression. Do you know someone who might need assistance with tuition? I said, that's exactly what they needed right then. And so it confirms to our pharmacist that God is active. It confirms to that young man who was being assisted, and he did finish. He's now also working in the hospital. That God cares, that God is looking out for them. It doesn't always work well, though. It was also about a month ago, we had a camp meeting near the hospital, and one of the speakers, he came from Blantyre, which is the second largest city in the country. That's where he grew up. He was also from a poor family, but he was in a church that was quite wealthy. And he told part of his story where it bothers him, and you could tell because he was still talking about it decades later, that when his family was suffering, there were a lot of wealthy people in that church. They gave their thoughts and prayers, but they didn't help. There were plenty of people that could have helped in little ways, but they didn't notice or they weren't paying attention. And it made a mark on this man who was preaching at the camp meeting. Fortunately, there were other people that did step up. And so he did stay within the church, and he's a pastor now. But even little things, they can hurt us, they can encourage us. The song was saying, we want to build each other up. We want to be encouraging each other. Another example, like last year, we have that very small school. You saw just a little group of students. So we often have student missionaries. And last year we had one that came from Southern. And she was a real blessing. She wants to study architecture. And so part of her questioning was, how can that be used in mission? She wasn't sure if there was an outlet or a venue for her to use that kind of skill in mission. She's interested in it. And so while she's there, we could show her. We have projects all the time at a hospital. We have new buildings that are being constructed. We have raw land that something could be developed. We need architects. We need people like that. And so it opened up her eyes that there are ways for her to contribute, even when it's not medical or evangelism. There are ways for all of us to contribute. And you saw what was called for your evangelistic series. You need people that greet. You need people to help parking. You need all of those things. There's lots of roles where you can be involved. It's even as recent as this morning that we've had an answer to prayer. My wife and I, we have a prayer list, and we start pretty much every day by going through part of that prayer list. And many of them, we do this especially because when we're in Africa, there's very little that we can do directly for friends and family other than pray for them. And so we've been doing that. And we were called this morning that someone who has been on that prayer list has finally got into a rehab program. He's recognized what it's doing to him, and he's seeking help. It's the first step, but it's important. And we have people on that list that we know people have been praying for more than 40 years, and the prayer hasn't been answered. That's difficult. But we know that God is involved, and we know that he has his timing. And so that gets me back. I have to go back to my mother's story. She told that story any chance that she got. And so I grew up hearing that. There was a 50-year anniversary, a reunion that took place in Switzerland for the youth group that she was part of in the Adventist church. And so she went back to that reunion. And she's telling that story among a group of the people that were there. And she says often when she would tell that story, there would be some people that would cry. As she goes through all the details and so on, I just gave a very short version. But there was a man this time that was on the edge of the group and just crying. And so when she finished the story, she went and asked him, "Are you okay?" And he really wasn't. He broke down and he said, I was the boy that paid for those groceries 50 years ago. I had no idea that your family was struggling like that. I had just had an impression. I talked with my mom. Can we do something for this family? And so I got some of my money and we paid for the groceries. And why it was so important to him then, he had come to that reunion because he had had a pretty difficult life. And he had actually made the decision that he was going to kill himself. But he wanted to see some of these people that he'd grown up with one last time before he went and did that. And so this is again where God's timing is so important, and we don't understand it, but it's real. He did that act without knowing what it meant when he was 16 years old and my mother was 13. And it changed her life. She's just telling that story, and he heard it all those decades later when it was important to him, and it changed his life again. we don't know what the things that we will do and say, how much impact they have. Why the title of the presentation is the one that it is. It's not how our family ever felt. We've been in Africa in several countries, and we actually enjoy it most of the time. That song, there's a song, you can find it on YouTube, and the person is saying, I'm willing to serve, but don't send me to Africa. We always put conditions on our willingness. It's easy to say the words, I'm willing to serve, I'm willing to do this, but when it comes down to it, sometimes we back out, sometimes we say, well, that's not really what I want. So it does apply to us in a way. We spent time in the country of Ethiopia. We loved it there. Beautiful people, wonderful food. The work was interesting. And when that project wrapped up, we were transferred to the country of Liberia. In Liberia, that's a country that had been in a 20-year civil war. All the infrastructure is destroyed. It's just a mess. We were in the capital city. There was no way to really get out of the capital city. So for an entire year, we were stuck in a city. And neither one of us really likes to be in a city. We were living inside the hospital. So the maternity ward was above us, and the mortuary was below us. And the generator to power the hospital was just outside one of our bedroom windows. So it was just noise, noise, noise all the time. We're still not entirely sure what our purpose was there. We were sent to evaluate the leadership of that hospital, and they had good leadership, so I spent my time encouraging and building them up, giving them resources so they could continue to do their good work. Becky, in most of the places that we've been, she works with nurses and nursing students, training them, and so she was doing a lot of that. We left within weeks of Ebola coming out, and some of you may remember about a decade ago when that happened. That hospital was one of the only ones in the entire country that still was allowing patients in. Most of them just closed the doors. It's too dangerous. And from what we know, only one nurse died of Ebola serving those patients. And it's partly because of what Becky was training them about infectious diseases and how to deal with those things. Now, we come from a culture where we understand germs, we understand these things. We have many people that are working in our labs that don't believe that germs exist. It doesn't make sense to them, even though they can see it in the microscopes. So we don't really understand. It was difficult for us. That year was very difficult for us. But we were learning something, and maybe we gave them the tools that allowed them to stay open as a hospital and not to lose their staff. Another person that I'm giving examples of how we can be involved, how we can assist, because all of us can play that role. Now, fortunately at our hospital, we are a training hospital. We're connected with Loma Linda, and so we have many residents that come from Loma Linda, and we're also part of a program called PACS, which stands for the Pan-African Academy of Christian Surgeons. And if you know anything about NGOs and overseas projects, there's what we call brain drain. You train people, you get people additional education, and they leave. It happens over and over again. PACS has a remarkable track record. They've been operating for about 25 years. They only are training surgeons. They do a very rigorous evaluation before people are accepted. They have to be Christian. They have to be active in their church. It's not an Adventist program. Our hospital is the only Adventist hospital that's in the program. And we have about 9 residents. They're all from Africa, from 5 different countries. But the track record of PACS is that they stay in Africa. Out of 25 years, they've graduated about 150 surgeons at this point. All but 2 of them are still in Africa. And so we're proud to be part of that program. a really important function for a surgery program to work is having pathology. There are only 1 or 2 pathology labs in the entire country of Malawi. And the people that run them have a really tight fist on who else can do that kind of work. And unfortunately, those guys don't do quality work. So it's been a struggle from the time that we arrived. What can we do to improve this? So we did build our own lab, and we found a partner here in the United States. He's a pathologist that operates out of Michigan, and he works with 7 or 8 different mission hospitals at cost. We don't get charged anything for his services. He does his work here, and this is a benefit, how he's serving. He reads the slides and the samples that we provide him, and so our surgeons have the information that they need to be able to do their work. There are endless ways for us to contribute and participate. Now, I recently saw a quote. It's a Canadian politician. I don't know much about him, but he was dying of cancer, and his name Jack Layton. And there, as he was dying, he made this statement: "My friends, love is better than anger. Hope is better than fear. Optimism is better than despair. So let us be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we will change the world." My prayer is that each of us allows God to continue to keep us loving, hopeful, and optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Austin. What a blessing and beautiful reminder that we just need to trust that He'll take care of us and He'll lead the way, and that we can put our full confidence in Him. Let's stand as we sing our final song, number 573 in your hymnals. I'll go where you want me to go. Let that be our prayer today.
I'll go where you
trust me. I'll do thy will with a heart sincere. I'll be what you want me to be. I'll go where you want me to go, dear Lord, o'er mountain or plain or sea. I'll say what you want me to say, dear Lord. I'll be what you want me to be.
We bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to do your will. Help us to know what it is. As the song just said, we'll go where you want us to go, even if that is right where we already are. We will say what we need to say. Let us never be ashamed of what you've done for us. When there are opportunities, let us speak. But everything that we do should already be a sermon. A lot of us aren't comfortable speaking out in public, but we don't need to. If our lives are demonstrating the fruit of the Spirit, people will notice. And all the things that we do, we want them to be to your glory. We do want you to come soon. And we ask these things in your name. Amen.